Welcome back to NAB 2017. We are here for the last day of the show. We're at the Teradek booth, and our sponsor is ProductionHUB.com. I have Pamela and Barry with me today, and I figure after 4 days of looking at all the new gear, today's topic is apropos because it's talking about how do we make money. So, Pamela, I'll let you tell a little bit more about yourself, and then I can expand upon it. But I have her here today because she's done it all.
I have.
You really have. So go ahead and give them a little bit of a background on yourself.
I've been a filmmaker for 20 years, and I actually started out as an actress because when I was 18, I could play that 12, 13, and 14-year-old range. Wow, you can go a lot of ways in that direction.
I was just going to say, it is the last day of the show, everybody.
No, but it's great. I had my SAG card early, but I was really annoying on set because I was so fascinated with how everything worked that I would ask the crew, what is this? What is that? What do you do? You know, I wanted to see and feel how the whole process worked. And this wonderful UPM pulled me aside and she's like, would you like to be a PA on my next set? And I was like, oh my gosh, absolutely, absolutely.
The only actress in the history of the business that went from being an actress to a PA and was excited about it.
I know, right? But it was great. It was a great learning experience. And I got to start off, and I believe everybody needs to start off as a PA because that's where you learn. You always be nice to your PAs because you never know when they're going to someday be your director.
That's true.
But,
that's very true.
Yeah, and that's how I got started to learn and to grow into the business. And for me and what I learned that the more excited and hardworking and genuine you are when you get onto set, that snowballs.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what had happened with me.
Yeah, well, yesterday's panel we were talking about it, and what was kind of the common consensus is that at some point during your career you kind of get, I don't know what you'd say, you kind of get knocked down a few notches. Once you kind of get that sexiness of the business that gets knocked out of you, then it's just the work. It's just that hustle. It's just the people skills. And I think it comes through. I'm going to ask you actually ask you a question about your first PA job. Do you remember what you had to do?
Yes, I had to get a certain famous actress water at a certain temperature.
And you're not going to share with who the actress and what the temperature of the water was? Come on.
No. But you know, I also did like the project right after that. I'm getting coffee for camera crew. I'm babysitting the director's kids. You do whatever as a PA. I mean, but you do it happily, and you do it because you like to be on set and you want to learn and whatever.
It's not just a PA. I was working with it on an NBA shoot, and we had all the players coming in, and one of the players showed up with his kid. You know, this little infant, and you know, he's got to go on camera, and so here I am, the DP, and I'm looking around like I'm like, I guess I'm going to take the kid,
right?
And I'll do the work at the same time. So I felt like Mr. Mom on set. So it doesn't just start at the career; it carries throughout.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So here's a question: so you started acting, which I didn't know about you. I've known you like a long time now.
I know.
I don't know how I didn't know that about you. So I'm more interested in that. So you started as an actress. You're getting paid to do work. Then you switched to being a PA, and you're paid to do work.
Less pay.
Of course, yeah. Well, you're not in SAG. There is no SAG for PAs. So did you start freelancing then? What age were you when you started PAing about?
18.
So 18. So were you full-time freelance? Did you have a day job and you PA'd on the side? Like, how did that start?
I PA'd on the side because I was actually a radio DJ. And so I was...
I didn't know that either.
It's all, you know what it really is? It's all the same business if you think about it.
It really is.
But I loved it. So I PA'd on the side just here and there. And then I became a mom and a stay-at-home mom and did the occasional movie here and there. It was really until I got divorced and had to realize, oh my gosh, I have to make money at this. You know, I graduated college with an art degree. What am I going to do? And it was kind of scary. But I didn't want to do some $9 or $10 an hour job. I wanted to do what I loved. And so I didn't have a plan B. I jumped in, freelance, all in, and I had to make it work.
So you're at the stage in your life where we're not going to call it desperation, we're going to call it motivation. Because desperation sounds bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing for me. There's a certain points in your life where you're like, I don't really have anything to lose. So therefore, I'm actually going. I wish that everybody could have an experience of desperation without a divorce, a death. Motivation. Where basically, at any point in their life, because a lot of people feel like you passed. I didn't do this. I went to college. Now I find myself, being sport over here. And if people could have that moment without any negative attachments, where they said, okay, I'm actually going to go for it. What I find is that I find people like yourself, like me, when you have those moments, you make it work.
You do. You have to.
And what's funny is a lot of people, I think, don't. The fear of not making it work. And
because they have that out.
They have an out. Well, the worst piece of advice, I love my parents, and the parents are really looking out for you. But absolutely, without a doubt, the worst piece of advice I ever got was have a plan B. Have a backup plan.
I agree.
And I kept telling them I don't need a backup plan because I'm going to make it work.
I couldn't tell my parents I was freelance because I didn't have a real job, even though...
I didn't have a real job. My mom finally looked at me and says, is this your career? And I'd been doing it for 20 years. I'm like, well, if this is not my career, I'm doing something wrong. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is what I'm doing now.
I was able to finally tell him I was freelance when I was camera girl for Jason Chef.
Oh,
And I was so, I grew up on that music.
Yeah.
And to be able to tell my dad and, send a little video, I'm like, hey, look what I'm doing, this week.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm now 40 years old. I just did a big project for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I got tickets for my parents to come watch it being displayed. So there's like 19,000 people cheering. And I'm like, see, this is what I do. And they're so proud.
Even at 40 years old,
we
have to validate to our parents.
I validate to everybody we know. What do you do for a living? I create content.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think, let's start there.
Okay.
You're at, midlife, not midlife really, but later in life, you're starting over.
Absolutely.
So if someone's out there that wants to do that hasn't got in, I like that because it gives you, well, you didn't start when you were 10 and you were a success by 21 and you've just been milking it ever since then.
No.
Not as helpful. So what did you do when you had that motivation? Were you working for free? Were you offering your services? Did you call up friends? Like what were some of those actions you took to get money coming in?
I did work for free on a couple of projects, and that was that's a good genuine networking thing. And when I say genuine is that I go to the shows or trade shows and things like this, and people are pushing their cards on you, and it's not genuine. When I first went to NAB, 7 years ago now, I didn't have business cards. I had never been to NAB before, and what it took was running into one of the instructors who was flustered and busy, and I said, let me help you. And before he could finish saying anything, I'm grabbing stuff out of his hands, and that changed my entire life because I was genuine. I was there to learn. I was soaking everything in, and I was working for free, really.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to learn as much as I can and be a part of the process. And he saw that not as pushy, but as an actually genuine person who was interested in doing their best in every aspect of what they were doing and trying to learn.
I have goosebumps right now. The reason is I think I kind of have a little bit of an epiphany. I've always told people, I hear a lot that people are like, don't work for free, don't lower your services. And I'm like, I understand that you don't want to set precedents, but a lot of times when you're trying to break into a new network, the best way to do it is working for free. But yet you can work for free wrong.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think how you're talking about it, the same thing. Some of my best successes in life came from the philosophy that I live by today with my clients. I'm a director, I'm a cinematographer. None of that matters.
Yeah.
What matters is I'm a problem solver for my clients. If I can solve their problems, they will give me not only money, they'll give me a lot of money. I'm a problem solver. So when you offer to work for free, when it comes from that place of genuine care, you're like, I want to solve your problem. I can see that you are hurting. I can see that you need this, and I think I can do it. That offering, immediately they go, well, I need to hire you. Just like our clients do now.
That's exactly what happens.
So it's the mentality. So if you're going to work for free, don't just go work for free saying, well, if I work for free, then they're going to hire me back.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the wrong mentality. Find out what that project needs. If you're the right fit, offer yourself. And if you are doing that in the correct way, I think it will lead to more work. And
Absolutely.
I think
and it completely snowballed into everything I'm doing today that I would have never thought possible.
Yeah, and there's a few points in life. You always say, what are those turning points? And almost all of them are based off those moments where you're selfless, you offer help, and you're basically not really looking. You could have never predicted that by this act, by helping this person, by being at this moment, that would have changed everything. And I think the only reason that you're allowed to change is because you came at the right attitude.
Yes,
which
the right attitude
really
and the genuine and cheesy.
But I mean, I think I tracked it back once from one moment where I helped a friend of mine that was in a dire need, and I paid for an airfare ticket, no money. From that instance, I tracked back a bunch of my clients, and in a 3-year period, it was like over $250,000 of money was directly from that moment.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. I never went down there thinking I would get anything out of it, but I'm like, oh, geez, well, maybe these are moments that you should take it. So I think finding a way to help someone else solve a problem will lead to you making money, because we all have problems, And if you think about it, would you pay someone to solve your problems? And most people would say, I have some money to pay people to solve problems.
Yep.
So be a problem solver.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Absolutely.
So you're working for free, you're problem solving, so the snowballing starts to happen. What else then comes next?
I'm doing freelance. I'm loving it. I'm shooting for incredible people, and just making my way every day.
Now, are you more in the still, more in the video?
I'm doing
are you
still
PM?
both.
Are you like 800 jobs, so you don't know what to call yourself? What are you? How narrow are you at that point?
I have a lot of eggs in the basket, and I would actually get criticized for that. Well, why don't you just specialize in one thing? And in my head, it's like, well, I'm not that type of person. There's a reason why I like working on sets. I like the variety in everything I do. I like, meeting new sets, doing different projects. That's just who I am, and as a personality-wise. So for me, it works, and I loved it. But with the economy changing and the way things are going, it ended up being one of the smartest things I've ever done in my life. I love my photography side. I love my video side. I love producing, directing, it depends on the project. For me, that works and it helps. And, but as a freelancer day to day, for me, it was like, okay, I made more money than I spent. And that's how I was every day. As you know, that's how we are as a freelance. It is.
I always say I have a bank from my invoices that have yet to be paid. Right. And as long as I have enough money in my account, so that works, I just want to grow the money that someday will come into me.
Exactly.
And that's just how every day is,
Exactly. And then when I got approached for my day job that I'm currently at with Atomos, I was like, do I take this? Do I not? Is like, because I love the freelance world, but then at the same time, as a single mom, and insurance, 401k.
What are those things?
Right?
Yes.
And so, I'm like, let's give this a shot. And it's been one of the best decisions I've done, because as a freelancer, it was doing great, but now I have developed personally in friendships with a lot of these other support companies in the business, camera companies, lens companies, support systems. And they're at the point where they say, hey, let me know when you want this. Let me know for personal use. Yeah. Something that I never really was quite at that point freelance-wise. And the projects that I have on the side, night and weekends, I'm better for it because of now being at Atomos. But at the same time, as we go to film school, as we go up and do things like that, the whole point of what we go to school for is to do what we're doing now, to be in the business of the film and whatnot. And it's been absolutely fascinating and wonderful.
Well, I think it's interesting. A couple of people have been speaking at various spots here at NAB, and I get a lot of students that come up to me afterwards and ask me questions. And they always ask me, like, well, I'm at film school, but I didn't learn those things. I'm doing this. And I said, I'm not going to denigrate schools, but I said, literally, you can learn everything outside of school practically, because a lot of times you don't learn those. But I said, if you're going to school, what you're paying for is a network.
Absolutely.
Make sure you develop those relationships, because you'll all go out and you'll work and you'll all eventually hire each other. If you didn't go to school, you have to find your network. So what I think is actually really fascinating, this was the debate I had with my mom when I decided not to go to college. It was the long battle, which probably led to the fact of them not thinking I had a career, is that fact of the matter of, if you don't go to college, where is your network? What are you doing? How does that work? And what I think, my mom kept thinking, she's from the mentality, you'd get a job and you'd work there for a long time.
Yep.
And now everything we read is if you work somewhere for 8 years, you're getting paid less, and basically your career is going down the toilet. So there's fluidity, and regardless of what industry, not just in ours, if you aren't having different experiences and learning and pushing yourself. So what I love is you come out, at a later point in life and kind of start. And you said, I was very interested in a lot of different things. Yeah. So you're not specializing. On our panel yesterday, we talked about that generalization. At some point in your career, you want to be that generalization where you're learning lots to see, what do you like? Yes. Where do I fit?
Yes.
What parts, this is fun, but maybe you kind of over time start to realize, I really only like this part of it. So is there a way that I could get more of that? And as you go through, yes, you like to have a lot of eggs in your basket, but now I know you. Yeah. You're starting to narrow that down as you get older, but what happens is you have a base of general knowledge that makes you more employable. And we were talking about people like David Fincher and stuff. When you walk around a set, regardless of the size, if you know that makeup's going to take 20 minutes, you're at peace about it. You're not yelling and creating conflict, and you can plan better. And having knowledge of all these different areas only makes you a better content creator. Absolutely. Whether you're a one-man band or you're working on a 40-person set that Warner Brothers or Paramount's funding, having that general knowledge base. So I tell people, wherever you get started, consume information, get experiences there. I mean, I told people yesterday for the one-man band, everybody hates doing audio. I said, volunteer for your friend that's a one-man band and say, I'm just going to run audio for you. And spend a day just working on audio, and you'll find out what you do and don't know, and you're like, oh, I'm not as scared, because you're not worrying about everything else. Absolutely. That one day of learning could be the difference of you getting different work or not making a mistake that, cost you a client.
And you'll be surprised on what those other areas that you aren't as strong as, and you start learning. Like, for example, my photography helps me be better in my cinematography.
Yeah.
My cinematography helps me be better in my photography. And it's stuff you don't quite understand, but really they all work together in the same thing. And it just makes you better at what you do. And I love it.
So what I loved is that you have a day job, which is either the goal of all of us to have, hey, we have a 401k, we're safe. But then we're all antsy and like, well, why do we want to stay there? I don't know how long you're going to stay at Atomos.
I don't know.
I don't think you're going to be there for 30 years.
No.
Maybe you are. But what's great is, like you said, it's another phase of your career. And instead of just saying, I have a day job, I have a 401k, I can go home at night, I hear you saying, I'm picking up freelance clients. I'm pushing something on the weekend. I'm making relationships now because of my position. So if you ever do move, maybe it gets you to a different job in the industry.
Yes.
Maybe you go back to freelance, but now you have a stronger, more broad network.
You're kind of in my head right now.
It's a little scary, But I think what's weird is I've done 4 panels here at TerraDeck, and regardless of the topic, it's all come back to the key thing that you have to do is work on your people skills.
Yes.
And be able to figure out how to solve people's problems, how to interact with other people, and how to basically be better with interpersonal people skills.
You want people to
if you walk around here, is not everybody's strong point. There are some strange people that are in our industry. And even though, I know a lot of artists, both male and female, that are unbelievably talented and they're fierce, but they're a pain in the butt to work with. At some point, that's harder to work with all the time.
And I would rather work with someone who maybe isn't quite as talented or not quite up to a certain level, but they're an absolute pleasure to work with and trying to learn. I'd rather do that.
And I think that's what most people are like.
Yes.
You can be talented enough that people will put up with you even though you're crazy, but those are very few and far between.
Yeah.
And you better be a James Cameron. You better be someone that, when the world thinks you're down, you just basically make the number one show on TV out of nothing. Then you can kind of have that. But until then, interpeople skills drives everything in our business.
Absolutely.
It's kind of sad. You kind of think that, maybe if you buy this camera, maybe if you have this lens, maybe
if they
you
like
do this particular job,
they're going to want to work with you. If they know
it's not even just that they want to work with me, if they will recommend you.
Amen.
They will spread out.
Because that's how the snowballing effect works.
Because, I love it. The worst, I don't know, if you remember back when you were freelancing, the worst fear is you're waiting for work to come in and you get 2, 3, 4 calls all on the same day. And you're like, can you move? I'll work for a half rate if you just move on Wednesday versus, you're trying to figure out how to get.
Yep.
So at some point they're going to say, who do you know?
Yep.
And the only person that you're going to be able to recommend is whether or not you trust XYZ person. Which
Absolutely.
comes down to, have you worked with them? Have they offered your services? Did you meet them at a booth here at NAB? How does that
But when
go?
you recommend other people, they turn around and do the same thing for you.
Correct. Well, they should.
Yeah,
I'd actually recommend people that it's a one-way street. At some point, I stop recommending them and recommend them. Not that I expect to get something out of it, but it's the sort of thing where it should be, hey, that's great, you gave me work.
Yep.
If I got something I can't, I would like to repay the favor.
Absolutely.
It's kind of that pay it forward. If you're only a taker, people don't like that.
That won't last very long.
It doesn't last very long. So I'm kind of the same way. So what's the most random thing that you've done that now looking back at it seems strange that you were able to make so much money off of that move?
Do I have to choose one?
Yeah, no, you got more. We'll take more. We still got time.
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh, great question. I still have to go back to where it started at all. Like when my first NAB, I couldn't afford to drive back, but I knew I had to be down here. And so I just went on my gut feeling and came down here, and it changed everything. So it was very one of those almost an out of body experience where I just had to listen to my gut, and it didn't make sense. I couldn't tell anybody because why are you going down there? You have no way of getting back. But I just did it anyways, and
that's actually a really some of the best decisions I've made in my life are ones that universally people said was a bad idea. And so I've come up with this idea. I know a lot of people when they try to make decisions in their life, they'll ask people that are, your good friend, your spouse, your parents, and you'll be like, what do I do? Do I do X or do I do Y? And literally, unless you have the greatest friend or the greatest parent on earth, every single person's going to tell you to go the safe route.
Yep.
The reason is not because they don't think you can do it.
They don't have that same.
They don't have the passion, but it's just an unknown. They're like, you know what? If you're asking me apples to apples, this is probably one that you should do. And so I'm telling people, take the one that people aren't if you think it is a thing, because you can always, this whole option B, it was like my parents were like, who makes money in the entertainment industry?
Yep.
I'm like, it's the third largest export of the United States. There's a lot of people that
Right?
make money in the entertainment business. You know, if you want to be Steven Spielberg, maybe you can't achieve that. Do you want to work in the industry in some form or fashion? Yes, you can. There's plenty
Actually, it
of jobs.
reminds me of a story of what random thing I did. So I
Okay.
snowboard, and I love snowboarding. And if people know me, know I snowboard every chance I can get. Well, I got a call from my friend working as a PA. And she's like, "We need some more female snowboarders." And I'm like, thinking in my head, my first thought is, I really don't want to just be an extra. And I know it's terrible. And I was like, well, okay, fine. I'm going to get paid to snowboard. When really, and I know it's going to happen. It's going to be the whole sit around and wait.
Yes.
But okay, I'll do you a favor. I'll come on set and snowboard. So I did it, but as soon as they saw me on set, I got turned into a PA instead. And then, okay, great. This is fun. I just got to see some of my friends, and I went home. Well, 2 days later, I get a call from the set, from the first AD, or the first AD recommended me, and their script supervisor had a heart condition, had to get flown away like in last minute. And they know I'm script supervisor, and since I was on set, I was fresh in their mind, so they gave me a call. It was for Steven Soderbergh.
No way.
Yeah, right?
There's a happy accident. But
So-
what I love is that you went in to basically be an extra that you knew would just...
As a favor.
But then, if anybody's not from cold weather, when you are not actually doing anything and you were sitting around,
Yes.
it is awful and
Yep.
it's cold and it's miserable. So you want to be snowboarding. If they're not going to let you snowboard, well then I don't want to sit around and be cold.
Yep.
So you went into something, again, kind of out of helping,
Yeah.
and it led to something much bigger than you thought possible.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of those stories in our industry. And I think it's great because it's, Steven
Random
Soderbergh's
thing
team
that, like, now-
wasn't like, hey, let's go find someone who did a good deed. It just somehow, it just works that way.
Best set I've ever worked on in my entire life.
You haven't worked with me
Amazing.
yet, so I'll change your attitude next time we work together. So,
Nice.
but yeah, I think that's one of those things that whether or not you're working for free, whether or not you're building. A lot of people tell me, okay, I only have X amount of clients. How do I get more? And I'm like, meet more people.
Yeah.
And one thing that I don't know if you're better at this than I am. I think photographers have a slight edge. Not that it's grass is greener on the other side, but photographers share photos. Video people don't really share our video content. A lot of what we shoot,
Yeah.
like, oh, good, let's go interview someone talking about a medical device. It's not naturally engaging where if
Here's
you're
the
outside.
BTS of our lights.
Yeah,
and
it's
what we
kind of,
did
it's not, the world doesn't respond the same way that we do. But we don't tell people what we do.
Well, there's
So
times
I-
I can't. I
Correct.
can be on a set that I have to sign
Yes.
the life of my kids. 2
Yep.
years later, I'm watching TV, and I'm like, oh, wait, I did that.
Yeah. But it's if we don't tell people what we do, share what you can. Tell people what you do, because that's how you start building a network. Come to an
Absolutely.
event like this. Like, I love the story that you came down here with that motivation that I'm going to make something happen.
Yeah.
Is really, if you read the books and stuff like that, that really works for a lot of people, because that's how human, if you're starving, you'll go find food.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
whatever you put your mind to, and kind of go that way. So I think when people are looking at how do we make money, maybe start like Pamela. So I think we're running out of time, so I will wrap it
Awesome.
up.
Thank you
Thank
so
you everybody
much.
for coming. Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you,
If
thank you,
anybody's
thank
here at
you.
the show, please stop by the Atomos booth. She's got cool stuff to show you. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of NAB 2017, and we will see you next year. Thank you very much, Pterodactyl.